All right, thank you everyone for showing up for this, our third uh, webinar in our monthly webinar series from the LibreTexts Academy. If you do already have a login account and access to the conductor, then you can go in there, create your own conductor project, and create a book. These were covered in February's webinar. So we're not going to talk specifically about how the conductor works and how initially getting a book started works, but those are available on our monthly webinars um, page in the LibreTexts website. So today we're going to kind of pick up from there and go on to learning about how to edit a textbook and how to plan writing a textbook using resources that are already available as a starting point. In February, we talked a bit about the conductor and its power for being a project management system. And it's how you access a lot of the tools that we will be talking about today. And some of the other features for assigning teams and working and collaborating all happens there. Additionally, we have the LibreTexts Academy is a good place to go find the construction guide, which we'll be kind of looking at here. And along with the free monthly webinars that I mentioned are located there, um, along with a quick start guide for getting started in the Academy, which in January we had a free webinar on basically the LibreVerse in general, all the different things that are there. February's webinar was on the conductor and getting started in building your own textbook. And today we'll be focusing on remixing and basic editing for textbooks. And I'm realizing that I haven't actually introduced myself yet, but I am Justin Schorb, and I am the Director of Curriculum Innovation and Development here at LibreTexts, and I am the organizer of the monthly webinar series and all of the Academy offerings, which are faculty professional development services and other tools for helping faculty, administrators, and teams to build content for their courses. Um, so the first thing we're going to talk about is prep work, having a plan and finding resources that you might use in your project. Then we're going to learn about editing your table of contents and adding new pages, which is what we call remixing. We're going to touch on how we do auto numbering and forking versus transcluding, which are key phrases to understand when you're working with other content. Then we're going to be talking about editing this page specifically, some of the basic tools that we have for making sure that our content is usable in all different formats and by different users. That involves copying materials from elsewhere and how the licensing will work, and how we can keep things automatically numbered regardless of where they're used. And then finally, we're going to touch briefly on different interactive elements and assessment tools that we have available, although we won't be going into how to use them, but I wanted to make sure people were aware what things were available for advanced editing techniques. And then we'll introduce our accessibility evaluation tools, as well as our new AI co-authoring tools for putting some of the finer touches that are a little more tedious into your work after you've done the bulk of creating the content yourself. So with prep work, there are four main things that you kind of think about when you're going to be working on a textbook and starting not necessarily from scratch, but from resources that you already have. So we like to think of this as building with building blocks along the way. And where are you going to get that information for those building blocks? Well, you can definitely go to LibreTexts Commons, which is basically our book catalog for our libraries. I'm going to introduce a nice Google trick that can help you as well in finding content. You might already be aware of other OER libraries exist and that there are content out there that have licenses that allow you to reuse, modify, or incorporate those in some way into your books. And of course, you have your own materials that you can add. And we talked a lot last week about how to manage building things, not last week, last month, how to manage using your own materials to build pages from scratch. One example of planning out your resources is to just make a spreadsheet and say you might have modules, what content you're going to be covering, your learning objectives, what are your learning outcomes. Then maybe include a bunch of textbook links, either to LibreTexts itself or to other resources where you find things, or just make notes of things that you have yourself. So you can plan out your textbook, what your goals are, and kind of like evaluate what are the best options for those different books that you might have. And then you can have that plan before you even start to get into the point click of using our remixer. Another trick I really like to encourage faculty to do is to look at our LibreTexts Commons to find those resources. If you were to Google economics, not Google, if you were to search economics here in our search catalog button, you'll get a whole bunch of books. Our search is kind of based on just the metadata that will show up in the catalog. So it will search based on book titles or the library or basically information that is on that catalog entry. It doesn't search the contents of those projects themselves. So it's not quite as powerful as like a content searching tool. But it does have a lot of power in that you can look at books or you could look at assets or authors. But the other important one is to look at projects. And you can even search for open projects that are available, meaning people are currently working on these, but they might not be published yet. Or you can just look for all projects with regardless of their status. So these are actually conductor projects for people who have started a project, but maybe they haven't completed it or they're working on it right now. And you can see if there are people that are working on it or books that exist, and you can send us a message and say, hey, I noticed that there is one in progress for the book that I'm looking at. Can you let me know who's working on that? And we can connect people. One of the greatest attributes of the LibreTexts platform is the community of people. So we have faculty from across the country working together to build resources that can help as many students as possible without overloading a single faculty member to do everything. Um, One Google trick I really like is search for whatever you happen to want to be teaching in as much detail as you would like, and then just include this site libretext.org at the end of it. All of our URLs end with libretext.org, so that will search for anything on any of our libraries and any of our sites. And it uses the power of a Google search to look at all the page content as well. So you can see that this search here brought up things in the social sciences library as well as in the business library. That's a nice way to go, especially if you're working at something that might be multidisciplinary. You're not even sure which library it might work in. So we like to encourage people to use the tool there and the already built-in functionality that's available. And then, of course, you might already know of a OER library elsewhere that has a book or your own materials. And we will talk about how to use those in a second. The main thing to realize is that books that have not been published, so those projects I mentioned, those open projects that might not be published yet, they're not actually available for you to find in any other way except for through our commons. So if you want to see something that's in progress, that book is going to be unpublished, so it will be a restricted semi-private. You can get added to that project with the project owner's permission, or possibly it's an open project that we've harvested, but we haven't actually had anybody of an expertise to go through and clean that up. So if you do find things through our commons, but you don't find it on a Google search, we might actually still have some content there that you can look at and then contribute to that area. For those other things that you do find elsewhere in the OER libraries or your own personal materials, we do have a harvesting or a integration tool where you can request things to be added to our library. And I put the URL there, harvest.libretext.org. This is for external URLs or for Word documents of your own books or PDFs of your own books that you want to release into the OER community. We are a publishing platform, but we're also a library of librarians curating materials, and we're also a general library for collecting OER resources into one place so that they can work together with other books. Having a book that's just located on Google Docs, for instance, is much more difficult to share with somebody who wants to use maybe just chapter 5 out of that book, or they want to mix and match the order so that it matches their curriculum, maybe semester by semester, in that way. One thing I will point out with my little LibreTexts Academy guy down there is their priority integration. If you are a member of one of our LibreTexts Academy cohorts, then you will have access to our priority integration, which means we will bump it to the top of the queue so that we can keep you working on your project. And that will get us through there very fast. Otherwise, there are additional things in there that ask you when your start date for your courses. So if there was a book that you planned on using in fall of 2025, let us know, and we'll make sure that it does get done by then, assuming that you give us enough time to do it. So don't tell us you're starting in a week and a half. We're not going to be able to do that. but we can try to accommodate as much as possible. And these are all things so far that I've mentioned are completely free. None of that harvesting is anything that we charge for. The priority integration through LibreTexts Academy cohorts is a paid cohort support mechanism, but they get priority access. They don't get something that we don't offer to everybody else when it comes to integrations. So that's a way to organize your books, think about where you're going to find materials, projects you might be able to join, and ways to get your material into our book in a nice, easy way. Now I want to talk about editing that table of contents, building that up from resources that you find, and adding your own pages. This is some process that we call remixing. So the OER remixer looks like this, and it has some key features I want to point out. At the top there where it says copy fork, that is a drop-down menu of different options for how to copy pages from other books into your book. This is a key point of confusion often that faculty have is if they say that they want to start off by making a version of book A. They'll go to book A and try to remix book A. That is the opposite way you do it. What you do is you create your own empty book, which is on the right-hand side, the remix panel. Oops, sorry. You make an empty book, and then you go find book A and copy its pages into yours. So it's a little bit backwards from how some people may intuitively think of it, because they think that they start with that book and then they're going to make a copy of it. You actually start with an empty copy and then remix into that empty copy. That's because you need to be an owner of the book to edit the book. So remixing is like editing. So you make your own empty version of a book and then edit that by copying other OER available resources into it. And this also means that you can copy from any book in the OER library. There's a library panel down below, just below the how to copy pages. You can choose from the drop-down at top which library you want to remix content from, and then those plus signs allow you to go into the bookshelves and the campus bookshelves, find other things that have been used in other places, and then copy those by dragging and dropping over to the right panel, which is your book. And you can add things. Those will show up as green. When you add things further on in the book, it might change the order of the book. So you'll notice that there are some yellow ones there. Those are places where they're not new to the remixer, but they're going to get new page numbers because I've changed the order of them. And then there is a delete button where you can delete pages, once you've already built a book and you want to go back and change it. There is a new page button there. Oops, I actually have that arrow in the slightly wrong spot. I'm going to move it so that it's not confusing to anybody in the future. The plus sign is the new page button. So that will how you get those new pages. You can see 6.1 and 6.2 are new pages that were put into the 6 new page chapter. And chapters and pages are not any different. It's just a matter of what level into the book you are. So the folder at the top is really the book. Then each of those book icons are chapters, and you put things underneath those chapters, then they become sections. But they're all basically the same new web page, if you want to think of page as being a web page rather than a page being a page of the book. Then up in the upper right hand corner is an auto number. So if you've been with LibreTexts for a while, you may remember going into a book and then adding a new page within the book. That's no longer an option. You can only add new pages through the remixer because we want to be able to have that auto numbering feature. So when you add a new page, it'll automatically renumber all the pages, because adding a new page often will require renumbering the whole entire chapter, so that the numbering goes in sequential order. So this is the remixer. Once you're done with clicking on all these buttons, dragging and dropping, organizing your chapters however you want, you'll click on Save to Server, and it will give you a summary of all of the pages that you want to add, rename, or delete. And then you'll click another Save to Server there. It's important to also note that there's a map in the upper right-hand corner, Save Map and Load Map. If you are not satisfied with where your map is and you realize that you need to stop and come back later, you can save the map to your local computer, and then you can load it back to here. Nothing you do on the remixer is saved on our web page. So we get emails on occasion saying, oh no, I left the remixer and I don't know if my work was saved. It was not saved. We don't save anything about remixers on our own computers. We leave that all to you. If you'd like to save it, then you can save that map and then load it back up to continue your work. I would recommend, if you're working on a book that's not even published yet, just save it to the server and come back later with some notes about what you want to do later. That way, once it's saved to the server, it is the published version of the book. By published version, I mean on our website for you to look at. It's not publicly available yet. So that's make sure that you do either click that save map or save to server when you're done. Nothing is dynamically saved while you're using the remixer. I'm going to go revisit the how to copy pages. So the two different ways you can copy pages are either by copying with forking or transcluding. So if you transclude a book, you'll end up with this little uh, linked icon that looks like a little map of a transit system where one piece of data goes into two different places. That's where that little icon looks like. If that shows up, then this page that you're looking at has been transcluded from elsewhere. So at the bottom of this page, you'll say, this is a page called 1.2 hydrocarbons, and it's shared with these things via OpenStax. At the bottom, it says this is a link to that original page. In the original book, it was called 20.1 hydrocarbons. So the chapter numbers have changed, but it's still the same title, and it gives you a link directly to where that book is. This, if you click on edit for this page, will actually give you a content reuse box, which gives you a link to where that book's located. Nothing about that page is editable on your book. So if you just wanted to use somebody else's page as it was, then you can transclude it. It is the safest option because that way, if anything gets improved, if they find a typo, if we add an example question or we improve an image or some accessibility such features such as alt text get added, all those things will automatically get entered into your book and your page will continue to look as good as the original authors. It does mean that you can't edit it. So you can't change the order of the text. You can't use your own figure, things like that. In order to edit pages from other OER books, then you'll need to change it from being transcluded to being a fork of that. So that means you're taking something, it kind of comes from computer science technology. You make a fork of it. Now you're working with your own copy of it, but it came from that place. So if you fork it, notice that then you won't have that little transclude icon at the top, and you will still have the page at the bottom telling you where the information is from. So we don't get rid of that attribution. It is a OER library that cares about the work of others and giving the appropriate licensing and information to those people. So we still will keep those attributions at the bottom. So that is forking versus transcluding. Essentially, I'm going to summarize it with transcluding is you are going to have a mirror image of that book. Any changes to the original book done by that author will be on your page. So any improvements that are made, cleaning up, or new images will automatically get put into your book without any work done by you. Or if you would like to have a copy of that and then modify it, then you'll get a forked version. And then you can have just basically it'll be as if you were on Microsoft Word and you just copied and pasted it into the other page, and then you have your own version to work on. So now, when you're copying that material elsewhere on LibreTexts, you have to worry about the licensing. So when we edit a page, I'm going to start off by talking about what does editing look like when you have a forked page, and how do we care about that? And then we'll move on to some other basic editing techniques as well. So if I took the book information from hydrocarbons on OpenStax book in the chemistry library, and I put that into my own book. That is a page that I can copy. I could copy with forking over to my page, because notice that there's no transclusion icon here. So if we do that, then I'll have a version of that. And on that page, I'll have this information. So now, in addition to my original page being transcluding reusing a page, I have content from there. I've now copied some page information from the hydrocarbons page. So now I have two licenses on the content on this page. And I can toggle the block level attributions. And when I do that, I'm actually going to skip ahead for a second. If you toggle the block level, then LibreTexts will actually highlight each paragraph on a paragraph by paragraph basis and tell you which content came from which source. So we keep the licensing, the license by paragraph, and the attribution back to the person there. I will note real quick, there are some authors who have published their textbook with us as being a license that is ND or no derivatives, then forking is not an option. You can only transclude their content. So you can only take their page as it is, and any edits that they make will have to be in your book because they've asked you to not make any changes or derivatives of their work. But if they share it with a license that does not say no derivatives, then you can do this where you can add your own paragraphs and you can copy content into there and then see where the different content came from. So you could have your own information there. So back to here, at the top of the page, there's also page settings and there are properties in the conductor. This is where you would set a license for everything that is not from somewhere else. So you can set your license on the page here to CC BY, and that is the license that applies to any content on your page that is not from someone else's page. So if you wrote your own paragraph at the end of someone else's transcluded information, then that paragraph would have your license that you've chosen to release your content on. And anyone who uses your page will then have your licensing and referencing back to your page there as well. And when you do have your source properties for the content, the source properties, you can indicate what license the original data thing. So if you think of it in terms of a harvesting request, what was the original license from the OER material that you are giving us to put into the library? Or on the other side, this also applies to any of the data you're going to be writing yourself and then putting it into your textbook in addition to anything that you remix from other places. And then that would be the license here, the CC BY 1.3, because I have this page here, or actually technically it says Delmar Larson, but Delmar Larson wrote this page. It's CC BY 1.3, and then it has information from this other one, which happens to be the same license, and it has information from an OpenStax, which has been released with this one. So that is a way that you can set basically multiple levels of licensing all with one page. Now, let's talk about writing your own material in addition to pulling things from elsewhere in with the remixer or by copying and moving information. When you're editing a page, there are two drop downs I wanted to point out. The Elements drop down has some basic WYSIWYG type editors, things, options that might not be showing up in that blue column across the top. The one I wanted to point out there is under templates. We do have a few templates. Most of these you don't need to worry about, but the three that I find to be quite useful are add figure single, and then two below that is add multi-figure with multiple captions, or add multiple figures with a single caption. Add figure single and add multiple figures with a single caption are by far the most common thing to use. This will give you a nice box to work within with a pre-built figure caption. You just replace the image with your image, you replace the caption with your caption, and it will make sure that everything looks nice. This is important not necessarily because we would like to control your style on LibreTexts, but because people do remix from other places, the more consistent our style is across all books, the nicer your book will look if you're pulling from multiple books. So we all use the same templates. Then when we remix things, the appearance is a lot more standard for your students to see, and that doesn't cause any extra cognitive overload of switching formats and what things look like and how they're numbered. Any of the templates that you might see in here that are really useful and used very commonly, we actually have in the boxes here. So if you wanted to do a mathematical definition or an example or an exercise boxes are one where you have a question and then a little hidden solution. So students can click the word solution and then the solution will be visible afterwards. We have other interactive things. All of our advanced editing that we can show you in other workshops, such as at LibreFest. If you sign up for LibreFest this summer, we'll have a session on advanced editing techniques there. Or you can actually learn about them in that construction guide that I mentioned earlier. Those are the most common things that you'll use in order to put things in there. I think I saw a question, which I'll let Jennifer chat with the questions, and at the end, when I'm done with the workshop, we'll have a couple minutes that I'll go through a lot of the questions and offer some more questions, answers. If you're scared of editing, remember, if you're editing a new book that you made in the conductor, it's not visible by anyone that you have not given permissions to view it. So don't be too afraid of leaving things in a really crappy version as a draft. But also, if you don't know what you did and you broke it, and you give us a little link down here in our little blue question mark in the bottom right-hand corner of every page, you can send us a support request ticket. and we can go help you. But one of the things that we do have is a nice version, action by action version history of everything that's been done. So the page I was just showing you, I did some things back on March 6th, and then the LibreBot, which is just one of our robots that goes through and cleans up pages, um, and kind of will add new authors or things like that if we add them. For instance, I added one of my colleagues to this project earlier today through the conductor, and LibreBot went through and added them as an author. So those sorts of things, you can see that it has been happening. Then in the red arrow there, you can see the little revision history. So that means we can reset it to go back to the March 6, 2025, 2:11 p.m. version of this book. So we can undo any of the changes you've done to go back to some prior stage. So that can alleviate a lot of concerns with, I don't know how this box is going to work. And sometimes you'll add a box and you'll realize you'll add boxes inside of boxes and then everything looks messed up and you just get freaked out. We're here to help you. Just go to that little support thing in the corner of your web page, and then we can go and make sure things look good for you. We're going to mention something with auto numbering automatically. So within our textbook, one of the things we request that authors always do is to use this page index chunk of little code there. And what this does is it auto numbers based on the book that page is currently in. So this says, I don't know what the page index is for this image, for this page, but I know this is image 1 on the page. So I'm going to reference figure 1 here, and then I'm going to label the caption of this figure page index 1, and then when this gets rendered, it will have the correct, like, chapter 11.2.1, no matter what book it's in. So if it's chapter 5 for you, then that page index will have a chapter 5 in it. If it's chapter 7 for someone else using this page, then that will have a chapter 7 number in it. So for figures, tables, and equations, example problems, all these things use this little page index thing so that automatic numbering will happen regardless of where this page is used in a chapter in a different book. So some examples of this, that exercise 20.1.1, you know that is exercise 1. It's going to be exercise 1 in every person's page that uses this page in their book. This particular example happens to be in chapter 20, section 1, and then it's the first image, so 20.1.1. On the other side of the table, that 20 happens to be in chapter 20, and there is no section for this one, so it's just a page that has only one no section, just the title page chapter. So this is chapter 20 page, and then table number 1. So that page index code at the top there is used everywhere. And that way, no matter who uses the page in which book, the figure and chapter numbers will be specialized to that book. So other things that you might be interested in and at least knowing are available, although we can't get into too much detail in how they operate right now. Uh, we do have a 3D molecule viewer for our homework system, and we have a bunch of different 3D molecule viewers available for our website pages. That includes large biological molecules, mid-sized molecules, or even small little ball and stick figures. Those are all available. They're rotatable. We have embedded graph viewers, so if you wanted to include a three-dimensional plot that students could manipulate, rotate around for math, but a lot of fields will use a three-dimensional plot of some sort. We have that is embeddable into the work. The next webinar we have in April will be on our Adapt homework system, which is a homework system and assessment tool. It can be used formatively instead of summatively, so that you could actually embed questions into a textbook and have students do the assignments along the way and get feedback without having it be part of a grade. So that's kind of the way for students to be able to work through problems while they're in the textbook interactively. We do have a Jupyter Hub, which I think it's just Jupyter Notebooks, where you can have a notebook that you work on. And right now we're working on building up our more robust Jupyter Notebook questions right inside of our textbook. So you can have a block of code where students run a histogram, then change the bin sizes, then run the histogram again to see how that might change. Those are in a lot of different, any tools that you can do for graphing or for little chunks of code, calculating mean, median, and mode. The statistics library uses a lot of our Jupyter functionalities. And then we do have an H5P authoring database, end database, where you can build H5P things, find a bunch of H5P interactives, and stick those into your books or into homework as well. And then we do have antecedent writing, which is another tool to use for possibly working with students to write new pages of a textbook using open pedagogy, and a lot of different tools that we have for getting collaborations between faculty and students, or if you just wanted to use a writing and analytics tool. One last thing here I wanted to mention is evaluation of accessibility and the co-authoring tool. So the AI co-authoring tool is a new feature that just launched in the last month or so. And what it does is it's meant to help you with the fine polishing of your book, doing the grunt work that is kind of a pain in the neck, but an AI bot can totally do it for you. It's good at it. Those are writing summaries for pages. So if you type a nice page, make it all nice and beautiful, going back to write a 2 or 3 sentence summary is kind of a pain in the neck, but it really helps students and faculty who are looking through our library to know what those pages are on when they go to look at them. So we do have a AI generated summary, which then you can go and edit yourself. So it'll generate a nice chunk of text, and then you can make it sure you edit it yourself. It also will assign tags. So with those tags, you can generate a bunch of them, and then you can delete certain ones that you don't want. And what those will do is actually build a whole index for your book. So at the end of the day, at the end of the book, there's an index that tells you which pages certain words appear on. And this tagging mechanism is how that glossary, not the glossary, but the index will automatically get built for your book. And we can do these in bulk actions where we build all of them. Another tool that we have is automatically using AI to generate alt text for all of your figures as well, which is a very tedious process, but it is very important for us to make our books as accessible as possible for all students. And that brings us to the last one I want to show, which is our accessibility checker. When you're in the conductor, there is an accessibility tool on the upper right-hand side, and it asks all these questions, and it just has a bot that will go through your book and check for these accessibilities and alert you to any things you should be concerned about. It's not the goal that you can check every single box, because sometimes the automatic checker will say something's missing and you'll go look at it and you'll be like, actually, according to the rules and standards that we have, that's a figure that's not a big deal. It's, but you should probably still have it marked as a decorative image, for instance, which you see image is not requiring alt text. Is it marked as decorative? So it does help you go through and make sure that you are trying your best to make things as accessible as possible. And we have that whole entire bot that will go through. For lots of extra questions you might have, I did want to mention once again that we do have the LibreTexts Academy, of which this is the free monthly webinar for March. We also offer a 3 to 5 day LibreFest in the summer. And that is where we have intensive, long tutorial hands-on sessions for building things, and we go into more depth about the intricacies of interactives, editing things in a very more complicated way. And then we have Oktoberfest, which is in October, where we do a 1 day crash course on the LibreTexts universe and all the different things that we offer. And we give short little 1 hour sessions throughout the day, some success stories where we share things that people have done, new tools that we've developed. Um, Other sorts of, those are all completely available and open. And we record those and then post them on our YouTube site as well. In addition, for some paid professional development opportunities, we offer in-person and virtual workshops, cohort training. We have 3 cohorts that are currently working on projects building textbooks or building question databanks for ADAPT. We can do them by institution or with a collaboration of faculty, or possibly discipline-based if you have a bunch of people from different schools, but they all want to work on an inorganic chemistry textbook, for instance. We do offer long-term mentoring programs. So if you want to work on rewriting your next book over the next year, you can work with us to do a long-term mentoring program where we will have accountability and check-ins once a month at least, and some training materials, and of course, access to our harvesting group with high priority. We can also develop any modules for your institutions to learn about all the different features that we have, or any of our licensing, how things work for authoring, or expand upon one of these free Academy sessions into a longer opportunity, maybe training program. One thing I also want to point out is a lot of the tools that we've developed in LibreTexts have come through grant writing collaborations, where we will work with a faculty member who has a grant that they want to write to make some tool. A lot of times grants will get funded a lot better if they have a wide dissemination uh, aspect, and LibreText is a very broadly used tool resource. So then your tools that you might develop, these new interactives, for instance, um, a good success model of that is coming up with the antecedent one. That's the writing tool that we're building right now, and a lot of that has come to fruition through other sorts of agencies and things like that, and any sort of dissemination activities. One other quick plug is the LibreNet Consortium. If you're not a member of this, making these custom remix textbooks, every institution can make up to 5 of them for individual faculty, and we'll host those for free. Once your school gets to be above 5 remix custom textbooks, then we do ask that your institution become a member of our consortium. It is a very low cost with a high benefit. It's $1,500 per year, which for a library is one of the smallest resources they usually purchase, and it comes with a lot of extra support, including jumpstart trainings and then access to your own course catalog for your institution, along with some other benefits from the administrative standpoint to maintain their library of OER materials within our ecosystem. And there's a URL there. So with that, I am going to jump back and take a look to see if there's any questions or if anybody had any questions along the way. Jennifer, were there ones that you couldn't address in the chat?
Can you show how to edit the alt text?
Sure.
Figured that'd be easier than trying to explain it in a chat.
I am going to bring up my page. So when you're on any page and it's your book, then you can go to the Conductor project straight from that purple guy there. Um, and that will take you to the AI co-authoring option there. I'm also going to show you if you have a picture on the book when you're editing it. What I'm going to show right now is not novel. This is just comes straight out of the box. Most of them have a image properties that you can edit, and in here, uh, actually, I'm not entirely sure. Um, when you put the image in there, you can do some alt text there. But what we really like to do a lot better is using the AI co-authoring tool. And once you have all the chapters here, then you can click on the bulk actions or click on there, and you can see all of the different tags that get generated, the summaries get generated, or you can do the bulk actions where you will generate AI metadata generating the alt text there. So you can overwrite the existing alt text if there is any, and or not. I'm going to generate this. I can't show you all of it because what ends up happening is it's going to take a while. So it'll email me when this is done, and then I can go back and look at it. And then you can, once it's done, then you can go edit in those that way. So sorry that I don't have one done that I can just go and yeah, it usually takes about 5 to 10 minutes, and then you'll get an email when the AI generator is done, and then you'll be able to go and look at it there. But the same thing I just did there is I can't actually look at it anywhere. That's how you'd also edit the summaries and the tags. But the summaries and the meta tags you can do section by section, and we want that to be image by image at a later date. But right now we have it set for just bulk actions. This literally was just announced 2 weeks ago. So feedback on that and suggestions would definitely be welcome. If you're looking at your alt text, you can use this little blue question mark and send a message to our team with features that you'd like to see. I see. Let me bring up my chat because I don't have it up on my screen right now. You should be able to add the alt text as you add the images individually. Let me go ahead and play around with that a little bit more. Uh, oh yeah, this is actually the alt text editor right here. I just didn't see that it was just an image name right there. So you can actually type in your alt text right there when you add your image, or if you right click it. Uh, I didn't have my thing zoomed in enough to read that that right there says alt text. So this is the image information that will get changed. For finding the link, I these webinars are announced via our newsletter. So if you have a registration on LibreTexts.org, you'll get a monthly webinar. You'll get a monthly newsletter. In that newsletter is the link to register for these monthly webinars. Otherwise, if you're at LibreTexts.org, if you are looking under resources, there is the monthly webinar series there. Or if you happen to be on the Academy page under faculty resources, there's also the monthly webinars there. And here we have links to all of our previous webinars, along with, at the request of some of you, we have the read-only version of the PowerPoint slides linked, as well as our slides are there and the YouTube video is there. And then up here at the top will be a registration link for, actually, probably for this one, it still has it. So if you were here earlier today, this morning, looking for the link, if you went here, clicked on that Google form right there, you could have clicked on that and you would have automatically been emailed the Zoom link. So that will get you to our monthly webinar as well. We don't check it. We just want to make sure we have an idea of how many people are interested.
Hey, Justin, just this is faster if I just ask the question. This is Barbara, and I'm the one who couldn't find the Zoom link, and I was emailed a verification that I had registered. Would you please send whatever you were just clicking through really quickly so I can actually bookmark that and maybe do it in chat so I can actually bookmark it. I'm trying to integrate you guys into my organizational process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will send you the monthly webinar series, and probably within the next 5 or 6 days, whenever Jennifer does it, we will announce the Adapt one there as well. And you'll see a fourth one show up on here, which will be April. I can't remember what date it will be, April something, and it will be the same third Friday at the same time, and you'll have a option there, and we'll keep those updated there.
Actually, we are moving them to noon.
Oh, there's Jennifer.
Yeah.
Hi.
Sorry.
I didn't say a time, did I? Oh no,
You said same time.
same date. Yeah.
Almost the same time, except we were informed that this time kind of interferes with some of the community college information that goes out in California. So we're gonna move them to noon on Friday, noon Pacific, sorry,
Yeah.
on Fridays, starting next month.
Okay, and did I read that? Can you at all send out the day, like maybe an hour prior? Is that what I heard Justin say, that you could send out the Zoom link to those who registered?
We did that the first month. We didn't do it. What I meant was you could just go here and fill out that form and you'll get the link right then. So even right now, you could have gone to look at these details and clicked on that form and registered. So the registration is open all the way up until we remove this link. So
I'll
that's what I
find.
meant by up until when the registration is going, there will be there. We haven't emailed out all of the registrants the link, but Jennifer, that's something we could talk about doing in the future.
I'm sorry to be a pain. It's just I get so
No, no,
many.
no. We want you to find us, believe me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. If those kind of recommendations are great because we just launched this in January. In
Oh,
January, things were a little
oh.
hiccupy, and then in February, it went pretty well. And this is only the second time after that we've done it. So improving it every time is great.
This is really good information, and I started working with you, not you, but with actually with Lamar, maybe 18, 24 months ago.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
my goodness. Oh my goodness, the changes. Oh my goodness. I'm thrilled. I'm absolutely thrilled. And I'm working with Shagun, so I'm trying to figure out how I need to incorporate you. So thank you. Thank you.
Well, Delmar hired me in August of 2024 to build the academy to help faculty. So
Kudos.
definitely, if you want to, reach straight to me and tell me anything that you would like us to do to help faculty more.
just kudos. I'm overwhelmed. Shagun will mention these things, but until you actually see something like this, you don't really, I always believe Shagun, but I don't. But I
She
don't.
actually she was on our initial cohort for the academy to get feedback on how we should build the academy. So she was integral in helping me to design these.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to go back and listen to to whatever you provide. I was 19 minutes late because I actually spent 30 minutes trying to find the link, but couldn't do
My
it.
apologies.
No, 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 please, no, don't apologize. It's my thing. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Of course. Yeah, we used to do registration through Conductor, which is great for things like LibreFest, where we think a lot of people already have a little bit of an idea how we work, but we realized after the first webinar, which started with how to register for an account, you have to do that in order to register for any events through Conductor as well. So we were hoping Google would simplify things, but technology. But no, we appreciate information like that. We want, when things break, please tell us. When you can't find things, please tell us. Um, we need to know these things so that people can find us. Or we'll
It,
just send Shagun out and just have her tell everybody. So
it wasn't broken, Jennifer. It wasn't
I know.
broken.
This one was, sometimes things break, it happens, but we want to know about those sorts of things too.
We did wait a little while, and all of these were regenerated. So I'm actually going to go back to that page that we had and cancel my editing and see what alt text we have now. So down here, I'm going to right click and image properties. Now that alt text no longer says something about a JPEG. This has screenshot of contact issues menu, blah, blah, blah. So it did populate that alt text right there in the page with some automatically generated based on the data, which this is a very boring and hard to interpret image. So it kind of gave weird alt text, but let's take a look at this one. The image properties for this has an arrow pointing to the right, including options, and the header shows chemistry LibreText. So it's, again, screenshots are some of the worst things to have alt text for because it's hard to write them nicely, but those are good first stabs, and what they do is they really do at least give something more than screenshot2.jpg, which was what was there before.
I think we caught all the questions in the chat. Does anyone else have any questions?
Yeah.
We have a whole 10 minutes left, so.
Well, we will have a recording of this and the slideshow presentation. Some faculty have asked, especially administrators and OER coordinators have asked for these slides so that they can kind of walk through things with their own faculty or add bits and pieces into their own. We're very highly encouraging of that. And those will be posted to our YouTube channel, and then the YouTube will, and the slideshow will be posted to our website there on the monthly webinar series pages.